All right, hello and welcome to another game of Terraforming Mars Solo Challenge. Today, the special thing is that I'm going to go slow. We're going to play beginner-friendly mode. I'm not going to do anything fancy. I'm just going to explain the decision-making process, and hopefully beginners can take a note from this about how we go through evaluating what's a good play, what's not a good play. Typically, when I play solos, it's at a pretty fast pace to get through the video in 20 minutes. And I'm doing a lot of things to maximize score potential, trying to get 63 TR, over 100 points, terraform the whole planet, all that stuff. Here, I'm playing with all the expansions available on the app, but we're not going to worry about hitting the massive score. We're just going to try and play a standard game as if this is your first time playing Terraforming Mars Solo Challenge, and you're trying to figure out, how do I do this and actually win a run, because it's kicking your butt. First, corporations. Obviously, some corporations are stronger than others. The biggest tells are whether they have production. With Venus next, you have 12 generations, so 11 rounds of production, so it's very easy to say, oh, this corporation starts, hypothetically, with 3 money production. That's going to be $33 over the course of the game, right? How good is that? Well, Credit Corps has close to $60. Inventrix has 45, so it's like a $10, $15 difference. This has 3 more cards coming in. This has a very niche effects that might sometimes work, but Credit Corps has a rebate on cards over 20. Maybe that'll happen 3 to 5 times with big cards if you're lucky, right? Like, how much money and value are you actually getting out of your corporation, right? There's some noob traps out there like UNMI where every round it asks you to pay money under a specific circumstance to get a TR, which sounds great because it is income over the course of the game and points, but it's a diversion that breaks even, pushing you away from actually terraforming. So if you're looking for a beginner corporation to be strong with, look for something that starts with lots of cash. So that's Tractor, Credit Corps, and other big things. And then look for ones that have lots of production. I wouldn't say plant production is very strong early. It's strong mid to late game, but early on, it doesn't help you build your engine, and it takes a long time to hit those plant breakpoints. In terms of what are we doing with Credit Corps wants to play cards that are over 20. I usually don't worry about these until I see the 10 cards that I'm being offered. So I might just quickly snap grab a few things that I like, maybe a little bit of production because it's strong over the course of the game, maybe a lot of titanium and some card draw to kickstart my game. If I have things that require oxygen or things that require energy, I might explore these other cards, but they're all fine. Again, here I am thinking I'm Credit Corps. What can I do? What would be a really strong way to just terraform the planet? One of the biggest ways to terraform the planet very quickly are space events. Big events, in this case, if I'm playing Credit Corps, that cost over 20 that are going to help me do lots of terraforming very quickly. And the way to evaluate if it's a good decision or not in terms of just terraforming the planet is often figuring out how does it compare to buying standard projects, right? An ocean's worth $18, a oxygen's worth $23 to buy the greenery. So that's like a $40 worth of terraforming, give or take. And you're going to get this for $23. And then you can discount it further if you're lucky in the game. You can get rebates if you're lucky in the game. If I'm playing a company like Tractor, bam, it's really strong. And then perhaps because I'm getting oceans and stuff, maybe I can get metals to help pay for it. So this is a really strong card for sure. When I see something like sulfur-eating bacteria, this is a less obvious card, right? Because this is going to give me some sort of benefit towards making money, which hopefully will give you more money than you put into it, right? If you have to buy the card, it costs $3. Play the card, it costs $6, and then hopefully at the end of it all, you get money back that is greater than the $9 you put in to buy the card. There's a lot of things that can make these types of things better, and there's always value to getting permanent tags for cards that count up, like get money for all the Venus stuff you have, get income for all the Earth tag you have, what have you. So what we're going to do is say, this card is hard to get out unless I terraform Venus quickly, and maybe I could get value. But what a beginner might overlook early on is whether it's microbes, animals, floaters, science resources, what have you. There are lots of cards that synergize. Like this is kind of like a combo piece where this card will give you a bunch of plants to help you buy greeneries, and it will also give you some microbes. And if you don't have a card that can collect microbes, it's just wasted. So by picking up cards like this, you can gamble, right, that $3 card purchase on the slot machine to see if you hit something good, right? So sure, that's a affordable gamble, we'll say, but that's about it. Something else, for instance, might be like asteroid hollowing. Oh, this gives me income. That's great. But again, now I have to start thinking, okay, well, I get 11 incomes in the game. If I got $11 from the very first generation and then $10 for activating this a second time, wow, I'm making like $20, $30, almost $40 back, right? If I keep using it. But like, it's going to cost $3 to buy the card, $16 to play it, and then a titanium every time you activate it, and you might not have titanium available, or it might stop you from playing a better card. So like here, it's like activating it 4 times might get me close to $40 back over the course of the game, but it's $12 worth of titanium, $16 worth of card, and then I have to buy the card. Like, it's just really hard for this to break even if it gives you a couple points at the end of the day. It's like a tricky card. House printing is also in that thing, right? Where like, yeah, early on when I'm really short on money, I'm going to be struggling to finance different things. So $10 isn't that bad, but $10 to buy the card, or sorry, $3 to buy the card, $10 to play it, right? Like, okay, that's $13 in the drain. It's going to take 7 productions just to get $14 back out of it worth of metal that can only be used on other cards like it. So like these certain cards, you have to kind of crunch the numbers a bit to say that's not really a good payout, where this card, sure, it's going to give me 2 TR, so I'm going to spend $23 plus buying the card, so $26, and I'm only going to get $2 back per turn, right? On 11 turns, that's $22. We're not even breaking even, but it's doing $40 worth of terraforming. It's doing it's making an ocean and a greenery's worth of oxygen. So like these are the types of things that we need to think about. Ice asteroid, for instance, again, 2 heat bumps is almost $30. 2 oceans is over $30. So it adds up to like a $60 terraforming if I was to do this all with standard projects. Yes, please. Adapted lichen, again, now we start to think about it in terms of greeneries, right? Like, if I play this on the very first turn where I'm short on cash, at most, it's going to get me 11 plants back. That's like a greenery. So if I pay $12 in the first turn, I'm only going to get a greenery and a half, at best, back, right? So that's like 20-something dollars. That sounds like a decent outcome. The problem is that plants don't give you anything until you have 8 of them. So for 8 turns, it's a dead buy. But then, yeah, sure, I get a greenery, so whatever. In this situation, I might be more tempted to grab something like symbiotic fungus because I already know I'm starting to get a little bit of a combo started. There might be reasons for grabbing cards like Space Mirrors if you know you're going to need lots of energy and you're worried that you're going to not be able to get it. There might be like points cards out there like Pets, or cards like Trans-Neptune Probe that if you're playing on a more advanced level, you might be tempted to buy it because it comes with a science tag, and that science tag might help you play other cards. But for now, I think that honestly, we've got a little microbe synergy that we can chase between symbiotic fungus and sulfur-eating bacteria. We've got 2 big titanium space events. And if I come back to these cards, I'm tempted to grab biofuels because it's a production card. In fact, let's do that. Let's lean into production, even though it's plants and I don't love it that much. But we'll grab an ocean with some heat production. And then only because I've got the first plant production am I considering buying the second plant production. That and the fact that if I don't buy any cards, I might have nothing to invest in. And that's the worst. When you're ending your generation with $18 left to spend and nothing to do, That's really spooky. Because you're not getting value. You really should be trying to spend every dollar you have every generation because it compounds on itself. So when we're thinking about what are we going to do with our preludes now that we've chosen them, biofuels has nothing that it's going to interact with, so we can just play that one first. We get some plants, we get some energy, it doesn't matter. Polar Industries comes with the placement of an ocean, so that's another decision. So we can go ahead and start that decision, and then the big thing is, do I have what I want to play? If so, what does it benefit from? If I'm struggling to afford these space cards, or maybe these space cards are my focus, I should be thinking, oh, are there metals to help me pay for them? Same thing if I had a building tag, I might be interested in these. In a competitive game, you might be tempted to go straight for these 2 cards because, you know, more card draw, more better. You might find the very big important thing. But in solo, nobody is going to take those 2 cards. You can get them at your leisure. In fact, I have 2 more and plus 1 more oceans coming. So, like, it should be pretty easy for me to get these cards. What I might do instead is say, well, I can either get more money, $6 worth of titanium, or start putting oceans down here. And the big benefit there is that it'll get me plants, and plants can get me to the next breakpoint of 8. Can I get to the next breakpoint? You know, I have a plant income, and maybe I get a second plant income. So I think, oh, well, next gen, I'll have 4 plants, which means if I get 4 more now, I'll get to 8. Or I have 2 right now. Can I get 6 plants and get a greenery this turn? Right? It's all about hitting that breakpoint. Picking up plants right now and going to only 4 isn't that interesting unless I plan out my whole turn and say, actually, after grabbing plants, I can grab 2 more oceans worth of plants and get a greenery. Look at that. And yes, I could grab 2 titanium, but that $6 isn't going to change what I can play this gen. I can only play one of these space cards. I can't play both, even if I have the titanium. So let's lean into the water for plants. Then here, a card that's over 20, so credit core is going to be happy. Oh, what do you know? I can put an ocean beside an ocean and get $2 and plants. And then an ocean beside an ocean, $2 and plants. How convenient. Now I get to play greenery, and because this ocean isn't down here for the titanium, I have enough plants this gen, not next, and I've got all these oceans alongside each other where I'm making money by playing adjacencies. Oh, I didn't even realize I'm on the wrong camera setup. There we go. Now we're out of the way of the tracker. So now I can put this greenery down. And again, it's like, well, now I have this string of oceans. Wherever I put this greenery, I'm going to be committed to playing in that area. So maybe you're tempted to get a titanium or a card draw or something, but then your next greenery has to be next door. I'd much rather come over here, grab $4, which is as good as grabbing $4 worth of metal, except I can spend it on anything. Plus I get plants to get to the next greenery. Plus I'm already forced into this area where I can go along the water and get more and more rebates. You might be tempted to put along the bottom, especially if you have an ocean here, right? There's a nice little nook for you to place into, but there's so many more plants up here that you isolate yourself out of if you take the bottom path. So in general, I like being on the top path, and that's just how it is. Now what I'm gonna do is play Adapted Lichen, because again, I picked it up because I knew I'd have some extra money this turn, and I want to spend as much as possible. If I had enough for Towing a Comet, I might be interested in playing that, but I don't need to. So I played a little bit of production. That's going to get me 11 plants over the course of the game, that +1. So a greenery and a half for $12 invested. Pretty good. Again, typically I wouldn't play it early, but because I already have a plant income, getting a second isn't so bad. When you're playing the Venus Next expansion, you get to have the solar phase. In the solar phase, you get to increase a global parameter on behalf of the government. This is a net kind of negative for you in that it takes 15 steps to terraform Venus, which is now a requirement, and you only get 11 free steps of the government. But the government can do more expensive things. Venus costs $15 a pop, oxygen costs 23. So, Also, it can help you do things that you need that you don't want to do yourself. Maybe you're short an ocean for your next card, or maybe I have an ocean card and I want to go pick up these 2 cards. Well, geez, I could put a neutral ocean beside it so I can, when I do place that ocean, I'll get more benefits. Here, for instance, I typically get heat bumps early on because in solo, you have 11 productions, 10 starting next gen. So getting these early heat income productions is so nice. But if I pick it right now, I don't get the benefit. The government gets the benefit, and the government isn't a player. So it's not going to help anyone. If I were to raise the temperature right now, I would not get this heat income. What I would like to do instead is, if I was one step further away, I might use the government to get as close as possible, and then I'll get the credit. Same thing for the card draw, the heat bump, the ocean, and the TR. If you do get this heat bump while you're doing it with the government, it will still trigger the second heat bump, but you won't get credit for it. And that's going to impact your score. And more importantly, when you're kind of new, it's going to impact your income because you want to get the TR credit for having terraformed the planet. So I really would never suggest giving any of these bonuses to the government. You're in control of it. You should be able to pick the benefits for yourself. Right now, the only cards that have requirements, right, for terraforming are symbiotic fungus and sulfur eating. Symbiotic fungus needs 14, right, negative 14 temperature. But again, I would be having to give up this heat income to the no one, basically. It'd be wasted. So I really don't want to do that. Instead, I'd rather go to Venus and perhaps start terraforming Venus with the government, and unlocking my ability to play this card. If I had an oxygen card, right, maybe I'd be more tempted to get oxygen. Early on, focus on having the government help you by placing oceans or placing cards that have requirements. In the mid game, you should start thinking about, what am I behind on? Oh, I'm way behind on oxygen. I should have the government help me with oxygen turn after turn to shore up the thing I'm weakest on. So we're going to pick Venus. One other thing on Venus is that there are few cards in the game that consistently terraform Venus, right? Oxygen, you can get plant income. Heat, you can get heat income. Oceans, you need cards. Similar to oceans, Venus needs cards. I always call it Venus infrastructure. Cards like this, I consider Venus infrastructure because it's a Venus card that does floaters, and there's a lot of Venus cards in the deck that use floaters to terraform Venus. So if I pick this card up, even though it doesn't terraform Venus, it's again that pulling the crank on the slot machine. It's a gamble that I might get another card that needs floaters to terraform Venus, and I'm going to use this one to support the second one. So for that reason, I think Aerial Mappers is interesting. Cards that have placements like Restricted Area allow you to get around the map a little faster. So like here, if I put an ocean here, I might really like Restricted Area on the other side of the water, because that's going to let me get the rebate from that side and potentially place oceans along the bottom. So I'm kind of interested in that card as well. It's also, you got to remember, $2 to buy a random card off the top of the deck is a gamble, right? The more cards you see, the better, but it costs $2 to see it. That's going to hurt you early on when you're as poor as you'll ever be. But you can always sell the card you purchased for $1. So at worst, you're losing $1, and at best, you're getting a card that really helps you. So I think that cards like this might go overlooked by beginner players because of the cost. But again, like, getting a card like Giant Ice Asteroid, right? I told you, it's like $60 worth of terraforming value for $36 plus buying the card. So like, I'm saving $20 of value by getting this card versus anything else. Again, early on productions would be even better than this card, but I wasn't offered productions, and we can only work with what we're offered. Here, for instance, Immigration Shuttles is offering me $5 of production. Holy, 5 is a big number. It's bigger than 2. But I wouldn't take cards like this either, because 5 production is a lot, but $31 plus buying the card, like, that's $35-ish. I'm going to round up. That's 7 turns of productions just to break even on the card. And yeah, you might get a point or two, but A, we don't care about points. This is just terraforming the planet right now. B, like, it's so hard to play early. I don't even have enough money for it now. I would have to not spend all my money this generation to save money to play it next generation. And maybe there's more cards that'll be interested. And I'm stalling my engine to play this card that really is only going to be profitable for a couple of turns, right? And not contribute towards terraforming. So I'm going to pass on that, even though it's over 20 and I would benefit from it. Protected Valley, on the other hand, is the same cost as a standard Project Greenery, but it lets me break some placement rules, which could be handy, but importantly, it gives me 2 additional production. So I actually really don't mind playing this card at all. So with that said, there's 3 cards I'm being offered. I'll buy them all. It doesn't really leave me that much to work with, but because I don't have the ocean yet for the pocket for restricted area, I'm not going to play any of these cards. I might take restricted area if I really had nothing better to do, but because this heat is right on the precipice, I think this heat bump for $14 is like, I have money, I should spend the money, it terraforms the planet, it gives me a production benefit. That's going to get 10 productions. So that's a heat bump for free because I got this a little earlier. Super worthwhile to do that. Then we're going to pass and go to the next generation. And now the next big thing that I'm thinking of is, oh, well, there's another heat income on the track. I want to make sure that if I get a cheap heat bump offered to me this gen in my draft, I can buy it and play it. I want to have this heat as close as possible, so I'm going to have the government help me. There are some cards that are almost always worth buying, like greenhouses. Even if you only get 2 plants out of it, it sounds pretty weak, but because you can use metal and a lot of things can benefit from plant tags, it can be good. I'm not going to take it because I'm not planning to play any cities. Meat industry also has so many synergies. I'd love to take meat industry. There are so many reasons at a high level why this card can pay off for you, but at a beginner level, I wouldn't worry. It's kind of a distraction. Most animals are for points. Let's not go down that path. Nuclear power, on the other hand, there are quite a few cards that require power, and I'd really like to have something. So I'm going to take that card just to hedge my bets in case I'm offered something that like turns 1 energy production into 4 heat production, for instance. It's pretty low cost of entry to spend 1 instance of $3, but it opens up my future drafts to have that much more combo potential. I wouldn't even say it's combo, right? Like energy plus energy consuming card is such a standard thing that it's kind of easier than combo. So now I'm trying to think, what is my biggest bang for buck? And my first thing that I jump to is towing a comet. I have enough money for it. It's over 20. There might be strategic reasons in a competitive game why you might not want to play this. You might want to wait for rebates or discounts or anything else that might come through for a card like this, because space events have like the most access to discounts. But right now I'm thinking, what's just the most tempo? Tempo being most terraforming I can do that gives me income back for my dollars. So towing a comet, for instance, would give me 2 TR worth of production on top of getting 2 steps closer to terraforming. And 2 plants just so happens to be what I'm short of to get the next greenery. So I could get those down, I could place a greenery, and altogether I would have 3 bumps. Plus, I would get the rebate from playing the card, I'd get the rebate from placing the ocean, I'd get the rebate from placing the greenery beside the ocean, right? I might get enough money that I can play another card. So 3 production and a lot of things back sounds good. Protected Valley, on the other hand, I could place it in a spot like this. It has to go on a spot that's water. And that would give me 2 plants as well. And then I could get a greenery, and it itself is a greenery. So that would actually be 4 production. Right, 4 production. And they're both basically equivalent. Because I think I'm going to get so much rebate from playing the Towing a Comet, I'm actually going to start there, because instead of playing 1 card and having 1 more income, I'm going to play this card, get so much money back that I can play a second card and start getting value out of that second card. So here, place this, Boom, we place a greenery. I'm just grabbing as much money back as possible. That leaves me with $11, so I can get a card draw every other turn, or I can get a card draw every turn for a price. I'm going to go with restricted area because it spends all my money, but again, I immediately get $6 back. That's a huge gain, right? $6 is like a quarter of what I make per generation, and I'll spend that on buying cards. And what do you know? We got a Venus infrastructure card. We got a card that takes floaters and turns them into Venus bumps. So if I can play this card and its combo that we invested earlier, aerial mappers, I can use aerial mappers to put the floaters on this card and then use this card to terraform the planet. Also, we might get cards in the future that just give us a bunch of floaters for free, which would have been wasted. So the fact that I took a gamble to pick up this card, because I know I have to terraform Venus at one point, allowed me to be lucky later when I was offered a second card that works together with that. So far, so good. We're out of money and stuff, so we're going to pass. Importantly, our heat has slowly accumulated, so this next heat bump is for free, basically. So let's go ahead and go back to pushing Venus, because that is what we need for our bacteria card. Now, another thing I like to think of is investing in the future. So I know I need 9 oceans. I know no other player at the board is going to stop me from getting those 9 oceans because I have to do it. I can get help from the government, but basically I need to do it. Ice cap melting, right, is $3 to buy the card and $5 to play it. You might get discounts on it, you might get rebates, but at a minimum, it's about $8, right, to get an ocean. Getting an ocean for $8 at the end of the game is like saving $10 of standard projects later. So if I spend $3 now, I can play the card for $5 at the end of the game and save $10 that I would have needed, $10 more that I would have needed without the card. So by spending $3 now, I see it in my mind as, oh, this is saving me $10 just owning this card. So even though the end of the game is like 10 generations away, at this point it's 8 generations away, this is getting me more than $1 per turn in income because I now don't need to spend $10 more later on. So for $3 I got 1 income. It just doesn't show up in my stat sheet along the bottom, and that's fine. Also, archaea bacteria. Normally, plants, I would say, are a trap. If you are going for a scoring run, I would totally consider something like Cupola City, because you need cities to make the plants really worth a lot of points. But because I already have 2 plant income and a lot of oceans on the board where I can place beside them, it's worth getting more plant income because it stacks. Now I'm going to hit those 8 plant breakpoints very fast. If you're playing something like Ecoline, right, you can play greeneries for 7 plants instead of 8. It might be really tempting to invest in lots of plant income. And if you can get lots and stack it up, yes, you're going to hit the breakpoint a lot and have an easier time. But without the oceans, you're going to find yourself so strapped for cash. And because you're spending all your money on plant income, you're going to struggle to get other types of income to play lots of cards. All of your other metrics are going to suffer for it. So that's just kind of a beginner trap I'd like to warn you of. But in our specific situation where we have money and things to do that are very high value, I think it makes sense. The other thing to consider here is if I buy these cards, I have $22. That means I won't be able to buy Protected Valley. Is that going to ruin my turn? No, because I have another couple of cards in my hand that are worth playing. Maybe Aerial Mappers, Forced Precipitation. Maybe I'll get lucky with my card draw here. So that should all be fine. Finally, I could consider something like Venus Governor. Again, I'm going to start by thinking, how much money can this realistically make me? I've got 8 productions left. It makes me $2 per turn. It can make me $16 if I could magically snap it into reality. It would cost me $4 to play it and $3 to buy the card. Okay. So far, it's looking like okay. You spend 7 and you get 16. It's like a doubling of your money. The problem is that the requirement for Venus means I won't get it this gen. Maybe I'll get it next. And it's going to force me to play aerial mappers and force precipitation as soon as possible to make it reality, or sulfur eating. So, like, is that distraction worthwhile? Maybe, actually. If I only play it next gen, I'm going to have to spend $7 on this card, and I'm going to make 14 back. That's still a doubling of value, probably worth the distraction. And some people might be thinking, what do you mean? It doubles in value. Of course it's worth the distraction. But the answer is no. Because I could be doing other things that maybe are only cost neutral, right? They don't double in value. But they give me, I don't know, a greenery. like, like Protected Valley. If Protected Valley breaks even on itself, right, from the money production that it's going to give me, it also gave me an oxygen. So not only did it break even in terms of paying for itself over the course of the game, but it gave me an oxygen. It stopped me from needing to spend $23 at the end of the game. So the value of cards that have terraforming, you always have to tack on that extra value that it's saving you a standard project later on. 1 second while I continue my lo-fi. All right, so look, here we are. I think that I can get 2 Venus bumps pretty quickly. I think I can get Archaeobacteria pretty quickly, and I would like to buy this card to have a discount later. Once again, I'm buying lots of cards, but I think each has a reason. I'm going to instantly click this heat bump to get this heat income, knowing that this minus 18 requirement is close, but not exceeded. I have enough money to start with some clicks. Perhaps I'm going to buy a card, see what happens. Again, I can always sell the card if it's a really bad one. In this case, I got Worms, which scales based on the number of microbe cards. That's kind of lucky because I have 1, 2, 3 microbe cards in my hand. Worms is one. I have another one already played. Like, it's probably worthwhile. It also requires 4% oxygen, and we just so happen to be at 3. So all of that seems to make sense. I'm going to lean into Archaeobacteria now. So 3 plant income is really good this turn. Not only because the card is almost unplayable due to the heat going up, but 3 plants is the break point for the next greenery, which means next turn I could put a greenery here for $4 and another plant, or I could start making my way around. A lot of options are open to us. Finally, between aerial mappers and forced precipitation, you might think aerial mappers is the way to go because you get to play the card and you can use it for free and you're halfway to getting a card. But I actually care more about the terraforming of Venus, and I don't mind spending $2 to load this card up, knowing that next turn, if I play aerial mappers, I can put the second token on it and then activate the card for a bump. Whereas if I start aerial mappers and put it on itself, I've committed to coming back to it at one point to cash out that floater to give it any value. And I'm not sure that I want to cash out the floater for cards. I already have a card draw mechanism. As a beginner, having 1 card draw extra per turn on top of your drafts is probably plenty. At a higher level, more cards are great. It stacks with discounts. There's lots of competitive reasons to chase that stuff. For us right now, let's just get our first little bit of Venus infrastructure up and buy a floater. One small thing also is whenever you get to place resources on cards, it will always default to the highest card eligible in your list. So I've misclicked before putting a floater on the wrong card because it defaulted to putting it on something I didn't want. So playing this card first is kind of a quality of life in that when I do activate another card to add floaters, it's going to default to wanting to put it on this one. Just a small piece. Anyways, there's all our money spent, all of our resources in. I feel like we're in a good spot. This is normally where I do an audit when I'm playing my solo Terraforming Mars game to see how well I'm doing in terms of scoring points. The metrics I like to use is thinking, do I have an income of $15 to $20 based on the baseline, right? You start the game with 14 TR. So I've got 11 more TR worth of production that I started with, and no metals or money. So in general, I would say I'm behind on production where I want to be for my scoring game, where I need to score 100 points, 63 TR, and terraform the whole planet. We're just terraforming the whole planet, so I think 11 TR is going to be fine. No money production isn't great, but we can make that work. We also have an economic bonus with credit core, so that's fine. In terms of terraforming metrics, I like to check to see how many oceans I have accounted. We already have 4 played plus 1 from the track, so we're halfway there with another ocean in hand. You know, that means basically I need to find 3 oceans throughout the rest of the game. Maybe I'll have the government help me. That's not going to be a problem. We have at least 5 energy and heat combined, which means even if you have a lot of energy and no heat production, that energy will often slip into heat. So like this gives me a baseline at this stage to know that this is at least ticking up. I'd like to get that number higher because I've already got the 2 from the track, but we're making do. And then 1 plant income as a token income is like, I consider it part of the baseline, but in general, you want to have 3 or 0. And if you're at 0, you want to be stronger in other ways. So I think that overall we're doing a pretty like high terraforming, low income run with very few scoring opportunities. No VP cards played yet. So not going to meet the trifecta, but going to terraform, going to be fine. Let's go ahead and pass. See where we get next. Here we have a choice. I'm going to pick Venus one more time. This is going to set us up to get that free Venus card. If I do decide to double down on forced precipitation, it's going to unlock sulfur eating bacteria even if I don't. So that seems good, which unlocks a Venus governor. So that seems like a really good play in general. Otherwise, I might be tempted to push heat because we don't have a ton of heat income. If we had a ton, I would never want to push heat because then you'll end up at the end of the game with lots of leftover heat, and that sucks. You kind of need to balance across the categories. You don't want to overdo something with the government. But the government helping us to push heat might help us get to -14, which is our combo card for microbes. So all of that's interesting. Let's just push Venus, start with the simple, and work our way through. Here, again, if I was playing competitive score chasing, I love science and I love card draw, and I have energy coming in every turn. So this would be a no-brainer. Something like Dust Seals, I already can't play it. I'm not going to worry about that. If I was looking to have 1-point animals and stuff, maybe Eos Chasma National Park would be on the menu. But all of this is very vanity-wise. Even Zeppelins, if I could play it, would be $2 worth of income. I'm 2 oxygen away, and $2 worth of income is like, at this point, I only have 7 production. So no, it's barely going to break even, and I have to buy the card, so it's going to be a loss, all for 1 point. Not interested. Not buying any cards in the draft is okay. It's just a good sign if you have things that you've drafted in rounds prior that you are going to be able to play. So with that said, I'll take Sulfur. Well, before playing any cards, if you do have card draw, it's usually the best place to start, just in case you get a new combo. We didn't get anything outstanding. So Sulfur Eating Bacteria gives us a Venus card. Venus Governor with 7 productions left is a very good purchase. Aerial Mappers is our combo card. So Aerial Mappers gives us a free floater. It defaults to putting it on the top one on the list. And then boom, a Venus Bump. That gets us an extra card. Venusian Animals, again, an animal card that is very good for comboing for lots of points. It's science. It has a high requirement. If you had the meat industry card we talked about earlier, it means you get money every time you got an animal, and you get an animal every time you played a science tag. Combo, combo, combo. For us, this card is basically nothing because we're not interested in science. We're not interested in points. We're just trying to terraform the planet. So this is a bit of a dead draw. Power infrastructure is also a bit of a dead draw because usually energy, if you don't use it, turns to heat. And heat is more valuable than dollars most of the time. Just in terms of terraforming at the end of the game. And the way I think about that is a heat bump costs 8 heat, but if I do a standard project, it costs $14. So in that case, you know, your money, it costs twice as much money to get the same benefit that 8 heat would get you. Just if you're trying to rationalize what makes it a good or bad decision. So Sulfur Eating Bacteria is an interesting card. We can either add a microbe to it, or we can cash out all the microbes that we have on it for money. So if we were to use this card, say, for 4 turns in a row, right? We could add a microbe and cash it out. Add a microbe and cash it out. And in those 4 turns, we would have made $6. If we instead put a microbe on it, put a microbe on it, put a microbe on it, and then after 3 turns on the last turn, the 4th, cash out, we get 9. And that benefit goes longer and longer and longer. So in general, you only want to cash out sulfurated bacteria when it's going to give you a big benefit. And a way to think about it is cashing out costs you $3 that you would have made by just adding another microbe to it. So it can be helpful to cash out early with only 2 microbes, for instance, if you're going to get a good card out of the trade. As in, I was just barely about to afford Protected Valley, and Protected Valley is 3 production, the TR and the 2 money production. So losing $3 to play this card early is worth it to me, right? Generally, I would just take the microbe, but it's just something to evaluate when thinking of those combo cards. Obviously, it gets a lot stronger if you can get other cards adding to it automatically. Like with our floater card, something else is putting onto it, and then it is going to be able to do its job better. Here, for instance, I am going to take a heat bump from the government to try and get to -14 so that symbiotic fungus is playable and we can go faster. So another ocean. Whenever considering buying an ocean card, always think, do I have all the oceans I need? We've got 4 played, 1 on the track, so 5, and this makes 6. This will be 7. I still need 2 more. Perfect. Do I need TR? No, I'm not playing the 63 TR mode. Do I need $4 worth of production? I can play this card, right? There's 6 productions left. 6 times 4 is 24. Playing the card is 8 and buying the card is 3. For $11, I can get $24 back. That is good. That's basically going to give me enough profit to pay for a heat bump at the end of the game. And am I going to be able to play it this turn? Well, I don't have anything else that's super pressing, so hell yeah, let's take that card too. Finally, bushes. 2 plant income, 2 plants, -10, which is coming up pretty quick. Absolutely. Let's, we're in the mid game now, I would say, starting in Gen 6-ish. But we already have a lot of oceans and plant income, so doubling down makes sense. Again, in general, it might not be your best bang for buck to go plants rather than money income. As always, let's start by buying a card. We got insects, which gives us a plant income for every plant type we have. Right now, we can get to like 3 if we were able to play everything, so that card might come into play. I'm right now trying to think about what is the most effective use of our resources. And obviously Terraforming Contract jumps out as being strong. I also want to be able to play aerial mappers, get microbes, and force precipitation. I don't have enough on it this turn, so I'm going to need $2 for that. If I played Protected Valley, I'd get some money back, but not enough to pay for everything else I want to do. In terms of microbes, I don't have enough microbe cards to get to 6, so perhaps this would be a good time to play microbe cards. I mean, I do if I had played insects. Well, you know, I could play Protected Valley in a way that gives me money back from adjacencies, but I'm not really vibing with that. I don't think it's going to quite work out, and I'm going to play off gut feel. So let's go ahead and add a floater. We're going to add a second floater to it, so it's ready to go next turn. We're going to add microbes. I could cash out, but I'd rather save $3 by not cashing out. And then, sure, let's Terraforming Contract for some income. And then let's Worms for 2 more plant income. It'll get us to the next breakpoint faster. And we can take this $7 to next turn. That's fine. We already have enough heat to get to the next level of heat bumps, so perhaps this would be a good turn to balance out our oxygen. Yeah, we have 5 oxygen coming in, but not a ton. All these cards are mostly vanity cards. Robotic Workforce would be allowed to copy a card, so I could get 2 heat income for it, for instance. You got to think again, is that more than I would get from standard projects? So 2 heat income would be what? We have 5 productions left. It'd be 10 heat. You know, a heat bump and then some. So I'd spend $12 for a $14 bump. It's like, and then a little extra heat. It might sound okay, but remember, if I were to spend that $12 on a heat bump this gen, you know, for $2 more, not only would I get the same heat bump, But for the next 5 generations, I'd be getting $1 back in TR instead of waiting for that heat to accumulate. So it's actually better to do a standard project heat bump than it is to play this card if you're not interested in the tags. And maybe I would have a better card played to copy, but in this case, I really don't. So, like, even though they both sound like you get a heat bump, first of all, getting a heat bump for the same cost as a standard project is not going to be a strong card to begin with. But also, getting the heat bump 5 generations later is not as cool as just getting one now. So, no, no, no. All of this is no. We take our heat bump. We have a greenery to place. I think getting closer in here makes sense. Insects is playable, but I'm not going to play it until I have more tags. We do have enough money for symbiotic fungus, so that's going to help us get more microbes faster. Let's go ahead and draw a card. Corroder suits. Now, this is actually kind of interesting because it's $8 and gives you $2 back 5 times. So a $2 profit, but you stop yourself from doing something, again, like half of a heat bump this generation. What makes this good is that it gives you a Venus resource. So for us, that could be a $2 floater to try and get more bumps, or it could be a $3 microbe. I actually think in our case, the microbe sounds appealing, right? $3. But force precipitation being loaded up with more floaters means not only do I get to activate the card more often, I also don't have to buy the floater for $2. So I think in this case, this is actually a pretty decent get for us. And then adding another floater makes sense. I don't need the money, so we can keep adding up these microbes. And sure enough, boom, there's a Venus bump. So finally, it seems like it's time to play Protected Valley. Again, it's a greenery and then some because it comes with some extra productions. And here, I don't want to play insects because I don't have what I need yet. Nuclear power is minus $2 per turn. At this point, money isn't really a problem. We have lots of TR and money production. Having a little bit more energy spilling into heat is actually pretty flexible if we think about it. It's going to be expensive, right? A heat bump is $14. This might give us 5 productions of energy, 4 of which go into heat, so 12 heat. That's a heat bump and a half. But it costs me $2 per turn that I'm not making an income. So it's really net neutral. What's nice about this is that when you have 4 energy or more, there's always the chance that you find a card that I call the Ox Gang cards, the cards that consume a lot of energy to spit out an oxygen. It also gives you flexibility on cards that like consume an energy to get a card draw, or the cards I mentioned earlier, like consume an energy to get 4 heat income, right? Like this might be a net neutral purchase with the upside that it opens up combos for cards that then consume energy down the road. So let's, for the sake of experimentation, let's buy this, get the energy, and then see if maybe a card's going to come through that is going to give us something to use that on. Right, something to use our energy on that's more valuable than getting a heat bump and a half later on in the game. Here, we don't have enough heat to get to minus 10, so I'm going to actually get a little bit more help on the heat just because I really want to be closer. Scientific, AI Central here, science tags. Interesting, again, is a card that lets you combo that energy production, get lots of cards. We are not doing a science run, so we're going to leave that behind. Rotator Impacts is interesting to push Venus, but again, $6 and then $6 more for an asteroid, and then you get to bump Venus the next turn is like a good way of converting your titanium into good outcomes. What makes this card appealing is that I'm going to get to use it at least 2 times, right? Charge it on Gen 8, use it on Gen 9. Charge it on Gen 10, use it on Gen 11. So in that case, I can count out how many uses I would have. If I loaded it in Gen 12, I would never get to use it, which would be really poopy. But maybe I could get a card like CEO's favorite project to add an extra resource on it. But as a base, I know I'll get to use it 2 times. So for $6 to buy the card, $3 to buy the card, $6 to play it, $6 to load it, $6 to load it again. That's like $20 invested for $30 worth of Venus bumps with some combo upside. Plus, I don't have much else going on right now. I think that this card is actually worthwhile. Tiara is mostly vanity. Mangrove is mostly an extra greenery. It's half the price. If I'm concerned about not having enough oxygen, this card can really help us close the gap. But I'm actually more concerned about not having enough heat than oxygen, so I'm going to let Mangrove go. As in not purchase it. Let's add a microbe. Let's add a floater. Buy a card. I need to play Rotator Impacts before it's unplayable. I would like to play Bushes. The tricky thing is I want to play Bushes so that I can play Insects, right? So if I do the standard project bump, I would have enough for the Bushes, but not enough for the Insects. Thankfully, we happen to be on a break point where the next oxygen bump is going to give us the chance to get a free heat bump. So don't jump to buying standard projects if you can find them in your cards or for free on the track. So let's go ahead and take this greenery. I don't want to put it here because in the future, I know there will be oceans here because I get to choose that. So instead, I'm going to put it over here and leave myself open to getting this future adjacency. If I put it now on the ocean second, I'm not going to get that benefit. So then we play the Bushes, and now I have enough money. I have 3 plant tags, so Insects is 3 more income. And what do you know? I'm up to a whole bunch of income. Here, we have a card highlighted to us, which is Soil Factory. I'm gonna, if I play this card, it would give up about 3 heat to get 3 plants. Now, plants are generally twice as valuable as heat, but I'm not sure that it's worth $9 to get 4 plants. It's really hard. I mean, really, I would normally say if it was just $9 for 4 plants, that's a steal because it only costs $23 to buy a greenery. A greenery is 8 plants, so roughly plants to standard project are, 4 plants would be about $11. So sure. But it cost me an energy, and I paid for that energy. I don't want to give up that energy. I'd rather sell the card for $1 and buy a standard project than worry about that. So we're not going to do that. We could also sell this energy that we were making for money. But remember, we lost 2 money income to get this energy. We don't want to convert it back into money. It's not a good exchange. This is really nice if you have too much power. We're like too much being like 12 or more. We're not at that stage, so let's not worry about that. So let's pass. We didn't have anything to do. $12 was short. If I had enough for a heat bump, I probably would have bought it just to maximize spend. I could have sold $2 or 2 cards. I probably should have sold 2 cards to get a heat bump that turn, but I didn't. And it was a mistake. So now we have a couple things offered to us. Large Convoy is interesting if ever you are going for a point strategy. Of course, 2 points, 4 1-point animals, and an ocean is 7 points altogether. If you're thinking about it in terms of terraforming, though, you could pick an ocean and 5 plants, and that is $18 worth of ocean plus half a greenery, right, worth about $11. So this is like $27 worth of terraforming, plus you get the 2 cards and the 2 points and all that. Not worth it in a solo game where you're playing beginner mode, but interesting. Venusian Insects, again, 1 point for every 2 microbes is a really good steal in competitive games. It's really easy to get this out, but you wouldn't play it in this game. Ammonia Asteroid, 3 heat income would actually have been really nice earlier. I probably would have taken this card, let alone the plant income, especially because I have value, right? These microbes are often thrown away, but for me, this would be $6 back. Not to mention I have rebates on cards over 20, so I could get $10 back in rebates on this card. And even when I put it there, like I was already kind of yucking the yum, but like $10 worth of rebates because I'm credit core means that this card costs roughly like what, 20-ish, right? Because you have to buy the card for 3 and then you get the $10 back. So $19. Would I pay $19 to get 3 heat income and a plant income? Like, I don't know. Let's do the math. We have 3 productions. That's enough for 9 heat. That is a heat bump for 14. Then we get a plant income. 3 plants are almost half a greenery. Let's say it's almost $10. Basically, it breaks even. A card that barely breaks even compared to standard projects, even using all the combos, is not worth it. If I had discounts, rebates, and other ways, it might be, but like, it just barely breaks even. And then Field Cap City, again, cities are very good if you have lots of plants, lots of greeneries. This actually gives you energy instead of consuming it, and production. $30 is almost never going to be worth it, but if you got lots of metals, sure. We're not going to take that because we are playing easy mode, beginner friendly. We can finally place this ocean. I'm going to put it here. Just keep the water walk going. Put a greenery beside it. That gets me as much money back as possible. I'm going to save this spot and go left for the same reason as before. I don't want to give up on that adjacency. I have things coming up that should be fine. Buy a card. Rovers. I'm not buying cities, so that should not be relevant. We're adding up all this stuff. Did I not? Oh, I didn't buy my asteroid last turn. That's the worst thing about these cards, is that you might forget to use them. Thankfully, I can still use this card twice, so the math still works out. It's going to be $12 for 2 Venus bumps at this point, so that's fine. But getting it 1 turn late hurts because you miss out on the income. It also hurts because we can't combo with it anymore, really. So now, again, I have a lot of money. Nothing in my hand is meaningful production. It's like the end of the game anyway. Production is really not that good. I should just be looking to do standard projects. For me, I want to balance out my metrics. So if I still get lucky and I get a card that's going to give me, I don't know, lots of plants to help finish off the oxygen track, I don't want to buy a bunch of greeneries now and then have no room to improve it. Same thing with like the heat. If I had tons of heat and then I got Deimos down for 3 more heat bumps, it would hurt if I already maxed out the heat. But here, I have a lot of heat and Venus to go, and Venus is on a break point, so I'm not worried at all about boom, grab that. We know that we have a Venus bump or 2 coming from this card. We have 2 Venus bumps coming from this card, so I'm still going to need 3. You can count it out. That's okay. I have about a heat bump coming in every gen. 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. So I actually think I'm lower on the heat. So 1, 2. Just balance it out. It's a lot easier to find heat bumps, and they cost slightly less than Venus. So when it does come to the government phase, I will use it on Venus because I think that my oceans are really close. I don't need energy on a slow pace. I don't need income. I don't need TR, and I don't need Venus bumps that are unplayable, so we'll not take any of that. Drawing a new card, having a look. Deep Well Heating, again, it's $1 cheaper than a standard project heat bump, so worth doing. The only problem being, like, I don't really need the energy production, but still, I'm on a breakpoint for an ocean, so that seems nice. And instead of grabbing this spot here, I'm going to go for the 2 cards, because I really like something better to play. We didn't get it. So let's go ahead and not worry about it at all. We'll grab our clicks of Venus bumps and our clicks of Venus bumps. All that stuff is jazzing. I'm going to keep adding microbes here because I don't need the money. And then a greenery over here. I mean, look, we're a lot of the way through. I have lots of money. I could probably buy out the Terraforming next gen if I really wanted to rush it. But I don't want to buy any extra heat bumps right now because I have a lot of heat coming in. I don't want to buy much Venus because I have 2 more Venus bumps coming in. I don't want to buy much oxygen because I have oxygen coming in. So it's really just 1 ocean here. So perhaps I buy an ocean. And perhaps I buy a greenery just to close the loop on this and take advantage of these adjacencies. And then buy another greenery because I have the 8 plants. But again, you can see we've already done most of the track. And I don't care about a lot of the cards I have. Most of them are like unplayable. Like this, I don't want to play. you know, this is unplayable. And sure, Soil Factory. That gets me to $15. Boom, I'll buy a Venus Bump. Like, we're just making sure that we keep the tempo, but we're playing basic, right? We're not grabbing too many things. Like, there's a few combo cards that were offered to us, some floaters, some microbes, now an asteroid, a little diversity of like beginner friendly cards. We'll take a Venus Bump to close the loop here. Standard technology. If ever you get this card, you've basically won the game because you can just do what I'm doing now, but even easier. Every standard project you get $3 off of. Really great. Cards like imported nutrients. This is exactly what I was talking about. 4 plants is great in terms of half of a greenery for half the price of a greenery. It's a little expensive, 14, don't get me wrong, but you can get discounts on it. You can use your metals on it, all that fun stuff. But because I get $12 worth of microbes back, and in your run, maybe you'll have the microbes that give you heat bumps, or the microbes that give you oxygen bumps, or the microbes that give you TR, whatever that benefit might be. This card is almost okay just for the plants, but by having the microbes, it becomes very playable. So we grab you. Mining area would also be good for us in general because we have a lot of things on the board. I could put a greenery here and have access to this titanium income. But to what end? I don't have any cards in here in my hand that cost titanium. And even if I buy one, right, like this one, it's not helping me that much. I could buy floating habs because floating habs would let me buy floaters onto other cards. But I'm already going to have enough Venus bumps, so it's kind of pointless. Even the standard technology is kind of nothing. So we're going to grab those cards. Only because I'm winning by so much. No, I'm going to... Like, I want to play standard tech, but I want to play Venus animals because I love points. We are playing simple, easy mode here. We're not worried about points. I'm just going to put my greenery down for the last oxygen. I'm going to do a heat bump. I'm going to go looking for a card. Because we got that heat bump, I can play Ice Cap Melting Room. We invested in this long ago. And I'll grab another card, sure. And what do you know? Neutralizer Factory. I don't need it anymore. At this point, I can't keep all the things balanced because I've done basically everything. So when I get this floater, right? Boom, I get this bump. I could, you know, while I'm sitting here thinking about it, like I could play Neutralizer Factory for $7 and sure get a bump. But like, I could just load this up for $6 and that's cheaper. So I don't know. It's a whole thing. Perhaps what we'll do is we'll play standard technology. Let's buy an aquifer and just get as much money back as we can. And then I'll buy... Oh, I'm so close, but no cigar. I was going to buy out the game. I was going to say, okay, well, and then we buy 2 heat bumps and that little Venus thing. But we're actually 1 heat bump away. Ending this a generation early would really have showed the power of my strategy. But I picked up a bunch of things. Oh, I have $30 sitting right here. Oh, I didn't take it. Whatever. And I already gave up on Venusian animals. Fine. We'll take this. Give me my microbes. Keep putting greeneries and oxygens and oceans down. We'll buy this $6 bump. And for the sake of argument and tempo, we're going to sell the cards that do nothing for us. And we're going to buy a standard project because that way we get 1 TR more. And that 1 TR more is 1 more income. And then bam, we're getting through, baby. We'll take an heat bump because we have the Venus bump paid for. Don't need. Yes, there's points on all this stuff, but we're not doing points because we don't care about points. We buy a card. We consume our asteroid. We consume this heat. And now I've done all the things. At this point, the only thing left to do is try and get as many points as you can. So I'm going to cash out all these microbes, 16 microbes. Our money's going from 68 to 116. And for me, the only way for me to make a lot of money is to buy cities. Or a lot of points, that is. So let's go ahead and play like Gyropolis, not for any of the incomes, but just because if I place the city, I can put a greenery beside it. And that's nice. And now I can buy another city. And maybe I want more plants. So I'll put it here. And honestly, I still have some money. So let's buy another city and put it here. And you might be wondering, how do you have so much money, dude? Like, what's happening here? And the thing is, I have 3 effects in the whole game. 3 blue cards. 1, cards and standard projects over 20 give you $4 back. Standard projects gives you $3 back. Placing the city gives you 2. That means that on a $25 standard project, I've accidentally built a combo to get $9 back. So it's $16 for me to buy a city right now. And I could have had pets if I took it at the start of the game too, but that's fine. We're just going to buy cities and not worry about it. Put one here. Now I could buy a greenery. I lose out on $2 worth of rebate, but who knows? Maybe this card will be worth it. Predators. I mean, I could grab a 1-point animal. We have another good city spot down here at the bottom, and then I don't have enough money to buy a city because I don't have enough money to buy greenery because these are too expensive. So sure, I'll buy predators and end the game with an animal. If you're concerned that I'm wasting anything, like, yeah, I can grab a floater. Does nothing. I can spend $2 on this floater. Again, does nothing. Discarded a negative point on it. If I'm struggling to win the game, I can sell it and see if I need something, but we're there. Yeah, and there you go. That's a full terraform. As always, you get that bonus green replacement at the end of the game. I don't have anything more than a single adjacency, so I'll get a card for the sake of fun. But yeah, there's a full terraform. How did I do points-wise and TR-wise and everything? Not very well. Actually, hilariously close, though. So I didn't try to do my standard thing, which is try and get 100 points, try and get 63 or more TR and terraform the whole planet. I did terraform the whole planet. I was a single point away from getting 100 points, and I was 2 TR away from getting 63 TR. So if you were playing this game and making decisions instead of me as I walked through them, I bet you could have found a couple of places in this run where you could have made a different decision and absolutely gotten over 100 points. Absolutely gotten 63 TR or more. This is just me playing the most basic, conservative way possible, with the 2 caveats that just like producing heat is needed to do the heat track, grabbing something to give you Venus floaters is how you do the Venus track. So when I grabbed a card early that used floaters, even though I didn't have a floater terraforming card, I was setting up a combo because I knew I needed those floaters. And then the same thing with like a microbe card. When you're offered a microbe card that gives you some terraforming or money back or something, there are enough cards in the game that just give you microbes, happenstance, or synergize with other microbe cards, that it's in your like benefit to have at least 1 microbe card. I wouldn't even say buy 2, because honestly, like, yeah, you can go in for some big combos, but once you have somewhere to dump extra microbes, having the choice between 2 places to dump isn't actually that much of a difference of just have 1 good spot to put them that you would pick anyway. So there you go. 99 points, 61 TR, but a full terraform on beginner friendly, explaining our decisions. This game went really different than most, I think, terraforming games, where at least you're offered some income cards early. MC income in particular is very strong. We did not have that, so we just jumped straight into terraforming on the first generation. And even though we just started by terraforming, like, I still basically could have terraformed the whole planet a generation early, and I spent most of my time in the last generation just buying cities for fun because we had already terraformed everything. So hopefully this helps. Let me know if you have any more questions or nuances. Let me know if I made any mistakes that you would like to point out. But again, everyone has their own style of play. It's more about just thinking about, does this investment get me closer to the terraforming goal that I'm going for, which is everything, without overkilling any metric? And does it pay for itself? Does it give me a profit? How long does it take to give me that profit? And is that profit worth delaying? Just terraform, man. Just terraforming. So once you get all that down, then you can think about rebates, discounts, card draw, synergies. But some basic synergies around floaters and microbes, definitely worth incorporating into your game sooner rather than later if you're playing with the Venus expansion. Without the Venus expansion, you can forget floaters because they don't exist, and you can forget microbes because there's really not as much synergy in that space. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you next time. Ciao for now.